Hi, in this video, we want to go over some basics in pandas. Remember, pandas is the library in Python for working with data frames. All right, so the first thing, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go line by line with this code. That way we have some examples. So I'm hoping that you'll take your data set that you're interested in and you'll apply this code to your data. And that way you can like dig in, start working on stuff, see what is most interesting to you. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set up my working directory. And remember, I'm pressing F9 on Spider to run one line of code. All right, so I've set up my working directory. Now I'm going to import pandas. Now I want to read in my data set. Now, my data set is inside an Excel file. It's in the SG School Grades sheet. There's 4 rows that have metadata. I don't want the metadata, so I want to skip those, and then I want to get into my actual data after that. So the 5th row is good. Everything else, everything above it, I don't want. And this is the file path to my data. Well, what's going on is that it's actually stored in C users, MindEd desktop, STA 5104, 2020 summer, and then in the input folder, copy of schoolgrades.xls. What setting up the working directory sets up so that I only have to grab the last part of the file path. All right, now it's read in. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about in pandas is the head attribute. All right, so with head, what's going on is that we look at the top few rows. We've already looked at this before in previous videos, but we're going to go just a little bit deeper. So F9, F9, it pulls out the first 5 rows of the data. And you'll notice that it's indexed 0 to 4. One thing you notice, it does not include the 5th row. Kind of interesting. First 5 rows does not include the 5th one. All right, well, what happens if I put a 10 here? What it's going to do, it's going to pull the first 10 rows. That is not what I meant to do. There we go. And so here it's grabbing 0 through 9. And if I hit 2, I pull that one in. So for me personally, when I have a larger data set, I tend to put just like 2 or 3. And you know, if it's a very wide, I have a lot of columns data set, I'll only look at a couple of rows rather than the whole thing, just because it will get big. Now, tail does the same thing as head, but it goes to the bottom of the data set. So here, if I just have it on the default tail, what's going to happen is it's going to give me the last 5. I put in a 10, it gives me the last 10 rows. And if I just put in a 2, it gives me the last 2. All right, it should be comfortable at this point. Now, the next thing that we need to think about is how is our object stored in Python? So the type function tells us how is it stored in Python. There's different formats to store an object. And there's advantages and disadvantages all the way around depending on what you're working on. So we need to know how is it stored so I can best implement the techniques I want to use or convert it to something else. So when I hit the type function on school grades, I can see that it's a pandas core frame dot data frame. The data frame is the workhorse of data analytics in Python. Now the next thing is the shape attribute. Now, something I need to point out. Functions are, I have an item, I have like a name, then a parenthesis, I put that in. So if I have something like type, open close parentheses, this is a function. And I put something into the function. Now, if I put something after with a dot, that's an attribute of the object. And the different types of objects have different attributes. As we get further along in the course, this will become this will be a much bigger deal. All right, so for the shape, it kicks back two numbers. I can see I've got 3,341, comma 48. What this is telling me is that there's 3,341 rows of data and 48 columns of data. Remember, columns go up and down like on a building. They go up and down, up and down. Rows go horizontal. I've got 48 variables and 3,341 observations in this data set. Okay, well, let's take a look at what are my variables. And, I'm going to clear this. I'm hitting Control L. If I go to the columns attribute, and I run that, I can see all the names of the columns, or all the names of the variables in my data set. And I'll notice that these are an index. So when we're talking about an index, this enables me to pull particular parts of a Python object that I'm interested in. And let's say, hey, what type of thing is the schoolgrades.columns attribute? All right, well, here it's a pandas core indexes base index. It's an index. All right, well, next thing we want to be able to do, we want to be able to grab particular parts of our data set. And so what we're going to do, the first way we're going to do this is with the index location notation. All right, so index location, I'm missing an I right there. There we go. What this does is I put in a number to indicate what part of the data I want. All right, so I want to look at this. Remember, previously when we looked at shape, it was rows, then columns. That's going to keep on coming up over and over and over. It's always rows before columns. Here, I've got this colon notation, then a 5, and then a colon. All right, so colon represents for like everything. So here, the second part is saying for the columns part, I want all the columns. And this part is saying grab everything up to the 5th row. Okay? Now, check out what happens. I can see that I get rows 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th row is not in there. So when I put in a number like this with this colon operation, it does not include that row. Kind of interesting, kind of surprising. It's thrown me off at work. So I want to make sure that you know about it. All right, now, next one is, I want you to notice that I've got some brackets and I've got some numbers in there. If I want only the first and third columns, then what I'm going to do is just put, brackets 1, 3, close brackets. And then here, this is saying get rows 0 through 4. Take a look at it. All right, so here we can see that the very first column corresponds to the school districts and the third column corresponds to the school name. All right, well, what if I want just the end of the data set? So we know that there's over 3,300 rows. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say I want 3,335th row and forward. I want the district and the school name. And that spits that out. Now there is an easier way to get the last few rows. So here, to be able to get the last few rows, I had to know how many rows there were, and then I put in that number, put it in the number a little bit bigger than it. Well, there's an easier way. If I put like this -5, what will happen is it's going, hey, let's go from the bottom, get the last 5 rows. So let's see what happens. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 5 rows when I do this negative sign business. Now this next one is very interesting. You see how we've got double colon going? What this is going to do, this is going to grab every 1,000th row of the data set. So let's see what happens. So it grabbed the 0 row, the 1,000th row, the 2,000th, and the 3,000th row of the data set. All right, now this next item, this next attribute, info, what this does, this gives us kind of like the overall big information of our data frame. We call it info. This is a very good way to take a look at your data frame when you have, when you're dealing with big data. Because when you're dealing with big data, you can't really look at your observations that much. You just kind of have to get a feel for what's going on without seeing it in reality. All right, so it's a little bit truncated, a little bit squeezed together, but let's take a look at what's going on. I'm going to clear all that. I use Control L to clear this area, make it easier to look at. A little bit crowded. Now let's come up. Okay, so when I do the school grades info attribute, I can see that I have a pandas core frame data frame, just like we saw previously. We've got 3,341 rows that are indexed from 0 to 3,340. We have data columns, 48 columns. All right, we've seen this so far. Now, what this does, it'll give me the column name. It'll give the count of non-null data here, and then the type of how the data is stored. Now, if this was a wider computer, wider screen, data type would be over here, and it wouldn't be doing the second row business. But it goes index, column name, non-null count, and then how that data is stored. So we can see that it's an integer. Here is an object, character string. Here we have a floating point, which is its way of storing a number. And we can see that there's different non-null, non-missing values. Now, when I get down to the bottom, here we can see that there are 18 floating point data columns. There's 3 integers and 27 object columns, character strings, and it's 1.2 megabytes, a little bit more. So this gives me a good idea of what it is I'm working with when I have a bigger data set without having to go through and slug through every single column, every single row. Okay, so now let's think about other ways to grab our data. So up here, when I use the iLock, what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the location by index. Now, I want to grab the column using the column name. So here, when I go school grades, I give the column name, the variable name, it spits out the beginning and the end. All right, so what type is this? What is this giving me? All right, so we can see that this is, so it says Panda Core Series. So we will call this a series. And we can do many of the operations we perform with data frames, we can perform on this one series. So we can do the head, the tail. Now, if I grab just the values, if I take the values attribute, it's going to give me a NumPy array. So this is a good way to get to what I have in a data frame if I need to have it in a NumPy array to work with. And I can see that the data type is an object. All right, well, you know what? I can do this also using more than one column name. Now, I'm only doing 2 here just because the screen isn't giving me a whole lot of space to work with. But if I go like this, I can see that I've got 2 columns going with 3,341 rows. What type is this? All right, so it's a data frame. So previously, when I grabbed just one column, it was a series. Now that I've grabbed 2, it's a data frame. We can look at the head. We can look at the tail. And remember, I'm pressing F9 to get this. And if I hit arrays or values, I can see that's going to give me a NumPy array. All right, that's all I've got for this evening. I hope everything is going well with you. Let me know if you need help with anything, and stay healthy.